Okay, so I'm going in to have another discussion with Daryl Holt. The last time I talked to Daryl, he was heading up to Tampa. I guess that there was supposed to be a portal in a trailer home, and they know about it somehow. They see what they believe is anomalies at the beach. They're there at the trailer now. He said, "I'm here. Can I ask how your journey was, or anything that you want to say regarding your experience of going up there?" He said we rather not talk too much about it, but we didn't use the conventional path. We thought it might be more important for us to go up to the portal. I asked if he stepped through the portal, and he said yes. And that they just went in and then came back out, so they're in Florida in another time. He said no. He said that actually it shifted timelines. Something happened where the timelines got shifted when we stepped in, and I think that's one of the things we were supposed to do. It was something we were told about a long time ago. You know, when we first embarked on our trip, that there would be a place where we would jump into, and that would shift the timeline, and we've been looking for this. And so then I said, well, it's kind of like weird. It's sort of like that whole, telephone booth thing where you go in there and you time travel through it, or something weird happens when you go in there. I said, no, you're saying this is a trailer. And he said, yeah, he said, this is a place where things change. I said, does anyone else know about this, or can anyone else activate it? And he said, not just anyone can activate it. He said, I don't think anyone can change the timelines, but they might step into a weird reality. He says, but then again, I don't know. I don't know what's happened here, but it looks like we're in the right place. So I'm asking him, well, first of all, I said, where are they? Because there's all this like mist and fog and everything, and it's almost like low to the ground. There's this heavy mist. It's almost moving like waves of water. He said, we're somewhere in Scotland or something. He said, well, how did you get there from Florida? He said, well, we decided to take a trip and find this old castle that we were told about as well, that had a strange coin. Is this the same time period? He said, I'm not sure, it's hard to tell. He said, everything looks old here. He said, but the coin is kind of set in to the into the stone. It's from another traveler, someone who walks into other timelines or parallels, as you call it. And they brought it here, and sometimes the time walkers come through, leaving little traces of things. They said that this is one of the ways that we'll know that we made the right shift, because we should be able to connect to the other time walkers. So I'm, a little curious as to what are you going to do from here? And they said, well, we hit our landmark. This is the first one. He said, finally, after all these discussions and all these different doors that we had to pass through, we finally have hit the marker that we needed to find. We're supposed to see a red vehicle. He said, there it goes. So someone just drove by. I think that's the time marker. I asked, do you follow him? And he said, no. We have to go back to Florida. He knows we're here. We know he's here. And it prevents confusion and unnecessary conflict in the future. He'll recognize us later. Do you know who he is? He's calling him Sobart. Sobarth? Something like that. He said close enough. We're going to step through a door and it's going to look a little weird for a moment, he said, and then we're going to transport over, back over to Florida, back to the trailer. Oh, and there you are. You look way older. Do you hear me? He says, it's me. I'm about 15, 16 years old now. Sort of, I never could quite tell my age. No one really told me when I was born. But according to my fingers and the growth of my bones, that's how they figured out an estimated age. I said, okay. You mean the people back home, where before you embarked on the journey, the ones in the future? He goes, yes. He goes, we don't have this structured system of medical facilities. He said things are done quite simply, and almost anyone can figure it out. We don't require all the medical assistance that you do, or you think you do. I said, I don't doubt that. So, were you living in that trailer? And he said, yeah. He said, well, it was an abandoned trailer by another time traveler. And that's how we knew it would work. They had things activated in here. My question to you, Daryl, is if someone were to find that trailer, could they time travel? He said no. He said because we would shut things off and we would replace the vehicle with something else. But people might feel that it has strange energy to it. Some people actually are living in spaces that were once used for time jumpers. So they have anomalies. They don't quite understand what they are. I said, yeah, I remember a place that I stayed in that had an anomaly like that. He said, with you, that was intentional. Probably wherever you go, there's activity because of the way that you do travel dimensionally. And I said, yes, I imagine that's the case. He said, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's very bad. He said, that's right. He said, but you know how to deal with it now, unlike when you were younger. And I said, I know. There's about 5 or 6 there with you. Said there's actually just 4 of us. He said we lost another 4 or 5. Through our travels, we were hoping that they would show up, but these 2 others sort of showed up. We don't know who they are, and we weren't going to reveal to them anything about us. They just see us and kind of want to hang out. They think it's a place to hang out, so they keep showing up. They come from broken homes, and so we don't think they were originally one of ours, but it's kind of strange how they keep coming around. Some of my friends distrust them very much and don't think they should be coming over. They also have a bunch of girls that they're friends with that come around us. But we're not really allowed to get involved with any girls because of, if we do and any of our information gets leaked, then it's difficult for us. But the girls are quite aggressive because we don't react a lot to their gestures. I said, you mean you like flirtation? He said, yeah. He said, because we're not meant to stay here very long. I said, okay. So, he said one time we shifted here and a bunch of females showed up from Russia. He said, we don't know how they got here. And it turned out that they were actually from a group that was spying on us, the ET group. And I asked her, were they really human? He said, no, not at all. He said, we just immediately went and shifted the timeline again, and they were gone. I asked him, I said, do you think that there is somewhere out there still? And he said, yeah. He said, we've had to avoid them at least 10 times in the past 6 months. That's a lot. What are you planning on doing next? He said we have to shift the timeline 4 more times. And once we do it, then we can exit this area. No one else can shift anything after that. Each time we shift the timelines, more good people are free. And those that have done terrible things get trapped. But it's dangerous each time we do it. We're at risk of getting very hurt. We were waiting for you to be here. We're going to shift it again. He said it looks like a mud city. Everything looks like mud. Everything's covered in mud. So what place is this? He said this is a natural disaster. This is one of the timelines of Florida where everything just essentially gets overtaken, and when the water recedes, there's this heavy silt or something on it. So nobody knows where it comes from. He said it's part of that alien takeover. He's planning on going down there and then having the people like slaves in poverty moving backwards in evolution almost, as far as their technology and everything, isolating them from other parts of the world. I asked if they turn Florida into an island. He said, well, we can't really explain to you, but it looks like this huge flooding up north, and for some reason this part is spared. Somehow people end up surviving because one of the alien groups tells them that they're going to be protected, and they are, but they are enslaved. They're there kind of in a place where they don't want to be. So we're going to shift out of that timeline and remove it so it doesn't have to happen. Can you point out the group that does this? He said there are those tall gray ones that you talk about, that you've seen, you know who they are. And are these tall gray ones then from Arecibo in Puerto Rico? He said they may be. It's mostly they're in another dimension. But yes, they possibly come through dimensionally through there or other locations. Does Arecibo attract them? According to my research and travels, there are certain species in different parts of the world that they seem to like certain areas and certain genetics of people. Each one has their preference, and if they had any type of physical hybrid relations with any group of people, then you will see that there is some slight changes in their appearance. Their levels of intelligence will increase. He said, and then they're often used to follow through with whatever the plan is of expansion of what they want. We don't think that that timeline is what you want, so we changed it again. I said, yes, I noticed that the houses are back to normal looking. He said, it's true, but do you notice the stillness in the air? And I said, yes. I said, it's almost like there's no birds. I don't really hear much of a wind. He said, this is not a good time either. I think we should shift this one also. I said, I heard the word nuclear summer. Yeah, he said, we're not going to step in too far. As a matter of fact, we're leaving it right now. He said that was brought on by the same group, the gray ones. They're trying to trap us here. You just shifted again. I notice everything looks like it's from the 50s. He said, that's right. He says, we're trying to figure out when they really came in very strongly. And he's showing me President Eisenhower. I said, is this one of our primary problems? And he nodded his head yes. So this is a time where we should remove anything that doesn't belong here. He nodded his head. So I said, I'm going to ask that Red Income and Andronicus and anyone else that is here to help us and have them removed. These are the tall grays. They seem to be undoing everything. Now I see a tropical storm. He said this is a normal storm. He said, I think we're going to stay here, leave that here. Now we have to go to Naples. He said it's pretty important that we leave now. He said those kids were coming around way too much, and we barely had any time to do what we were supposed to do. We didn't get the time to finish what we needed to finish. But we'll be okay. He said we need to close down the trailer. We're heading out tonight. They'll find out in the morning that we're gone. All the controls are disabled before we leave. And something will happen to the trailer where it won't be accessed anymore. Can I ask what you're doing in Naples? In Naples, Florida? He said we need to close a few more doors down. Those timeline shifts didn't correct everything. It's getting a little windy. We need to get going, so I'll talk to you soon. I'll let you know when we get there. And I said, okay. All right, thank you, Daryl. So that's the end of the transmission with Daryl. It sounds like there is some things that went on. I could literally see the different timeline changes of that mud area. Then there was another area where it looked like there was some kind of nuclear event happened, which he said doesn't have to happen. Then there was the 1950s point, and then there was a natural tropical storm. But it was kind of weird seeing him. It's like he grew up overnight, and all the kids looked like they were older. It was a little hard to tell what year it was, and it felt like some of those kids weren't right either, but couldn't get much into that. I think we had to really stay focused. It was kind of strange seeing Eisenhower, so I knew exactly what they were talking about. And I did see Arecibo. I could actually see like a telescope, a very advanced telescope. So that's the end of that transmission, and thank you for listening.
Trouble, bad dog in my soul since the day I was born.